What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of the Hobby Hotline podcast. Our hosts this week, we got Val Mars, NASCAR Radio, Drew Herndon, Let Me Get That Potograph at LGTB Podcast. We are the Hobby's only live call-in show, live every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can follow us on Hobby Hotline on Twitter. And you can also download the podcast at iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Overcast, and TuneIn. So, hey guys, what's up?
What's going on?
Good morning.
How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. Unfortunately, there's nothing to talk about today, so I really don't know what we're going to discuss. No.
Well, enjoy talking with you guys.
I know.
Shut the feed down. Let's go home.
I mean, seriously, but what a week in general. It's just been it's incredible. I mean, it's something that I've never seen in my life. I've never seen something like this. And Val, right before the show started, you kind of alluded to it. It kind of has that 9/11 feel to it. And guys, before we get too far into the show, as always, please call in. We've got the link right there down below. I'll be putting it in here in the comments in just a moment as soon as Restream decides it wants to work with me. So, please, we'd love for you guys to call in and join the show and let us know what you think. If you've got a question regarding everything that's going on, or if it's just anything in general in the hobby that you want, we'd love to talk about other stuff as well. Trust me. But guys, when you heard all this stuff going on, Dan, I guess I'll start with you. You know, when you heard like the first, obviously there's a million angles we can take here. We're going to focus on the hobby and the sports. That's what the show is. But when you saw, the first league shut down, the NBA, you saw someone come out in the NBA that actually had the coronavirus, so you knew the league was shutting down. Then you saw Major League Baseball follow suit. When you saw all this stuff start to happen, and really the entire sports world just come to a complete and total halt, what went through your mind when all of this was going on?
The first thing, because I mean, this has been going on since December, and it really hasn't affected us directly until the league shut down. And once the league shut down, you look at it. I mean, we're all in the sports industry, so like you're kind of like, the first thing is, how is it going to affect us? What is it going to do? Right. And it's like at the point where it really started getting real. And you see Rudy Gobert get affected, and then Tom Hanks, it came out, and he was affected as well. I know that's not sports related, but still, that's like one of those things that like it hits home, it makes it real. I'm in the Bay Area where it is absolute, like, I mean, kind of chaos right now. We went from like no gatherings of 250 or more. Now down to 30. Actually, one of the big ones, even bigger than the league shutting down, where I actually took a step back and was like, whoa, was South by Southwest being canceled. Yeah. And what that does to the city of Austin. I mean, that's like I think it's like a 10 to 14 day festival that brings in $350-400 million into that community, into that city, just gets shut down. I think that's what really made me go, this is a lot bigger than everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It was quite shocking myself. Guys, we're trying to get the link up to where you guys can click it in Restream. Restream's having a couple of issues today, but looks like somebody did figure it out, as we do have our first caller of the day. So we're going to go on and bring in Josh. So welcome to the show, Josh. How's it going, man? Josh, what's going on, buddy?
Josh, are you out there?
Josh. Hope the coronavirus didn't take. Yep, coronavirus took someone already. All right. Well, Josh, call back in and join the show.
Please.
You're more than welcome to. But anyways, as I said, guys, I am working right now on getting Restream up and running to where I can comment with you guys. I do not know why it is not working right now. But we will get the link in there in just one moment. So Val, looking at, you're big into NASCAR and everything, and I guess we'll take it more from a hobby perspective here. When you guys look at all this right now and you see what's going on, I mean, like, I personally, I don't think this is going to last very long. We'll get into that later, especially when people that I know who work for a couple NFL teams have been told not to cancel anything, that, stick to your schedule. Everything should be fine. I think everything's fine by then. But what do you guys see happening in the hobby with all this? Because, I mean, all of the sports have come to a standstill. You had Luka playing out of his mind. You had Zion when they put him on the floor just going lights out. You had baseball right about to kick into gear with some very talented prospects that people have been dying to see. What do you think is going to happen to the market, both short term and, maybe a couple of weeks down the line? Because I think those could be two very different answers personally.
When you're saying that, I think right now everybody's kind of in a daze or whatever, or this kind of was a shock. So I think right now maybe the market or for the hobby is going to take a little dip. Mm-hmm. But I think as time goes by, we use sports as an escape for and the hobby as an escape from stuff. So I would actually look to see that maybe people are buying stuff if the market stays the same and you don't really see an influx, because we're not really in some panic of a financial crisis. It's more of right now a health crisis. So people need to be isolated, and what if you have some free time, you're gonna maybe work on your card collection some, and the internet's up and running. So I know Dan, right. Dan, what do you think?
Well, Dan, actually, Dan, right before I do want to get your feedback on this, especially because you're somebody that's breaking a ton, and that's something I really wanted to touch on. But it looks like Josh did call back in, so I don't want to keep you guys on hold too long. So we'll pull Josh in for just a moment. Josh, we thought the coronavirus got you, but it looks like you're okay. Everything good? Are we there? Josh just said, Josh, you're muted now. Now unmute yourself. I can see when you mute yourself, bud. So unmute your mic. You should be good to go. Oh, unfortunate. Well, Josh, if we can get that worked out. Anyway, Dan, you were saying, Dan, from what are you thinking about all this from a market perspective?
You can kind of compare it to how certain players get hurt and they're not gonna play. Ben Simmons, go back to 16-17 with basketball. He didn't play one game. He was hurt all year. But that didn't really affect his card prices. If anything, they came out high and they kind of stayed pretty steady throughout the year.
Right.
Basketball is going to be back, and I'm gonna focus on basketball because essentially it was. I mean, we were heading right into the playoffs. You had Zion, you had Luka, you had the Lakers playing out of their minds. You had the Milwaukee Bucks playing out of their minds. And Panini actually doesn't have a basketball release coming out for another 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
So Impeccable just came out, ultra high end. The secondary market has skyrocketed on prices, at least for sealed wax, sealed cases, stuff like that. Prism basketball is still going through the roof. So I don't think it's going to affect that. I know in our break community, we kind of want to use what we're doing as truly an escape from your day-to-day, life of having to deal with this stuff. Like, come into our chat and talk about sports. Let's talk about cards. Let's talk about anything but the coronavirus. Because the thing is that everywhere you go, you have your phone in front of you, you're going to be getting information about it. You turn on a TV, you're going to be getting information about it. A lot of the times you're going to be getting the information constantly. And I think that's what actually kind of brings people into a panic. If you hear it all day long, you start to literally go, this is the only thing that I got going on in my life right now.
Yes, and that's where it gets incredibly frustrating with me, and that's where I think a lot of the overreaction in a lot of areas, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now can be applied to about a million different aspects of America and culture right now. So, wow, looks like we got a couple of different people on the line. We're going to give Josh. He thinks he may have fixed it up. Josh, what's going on, man?
Third time's a charm. Third time's a charm.
Did we get you? No. All right. Well, all right, Josh. Well, maybe next week we'll be able to pull you in, but we do have another caller in here, the O. So we'll go on and pull him in. What's going on, man? Thanks for calling in.
I'm pretty good. I have a question about what you guys are currently talking about.
Sure.
So, let's say hypothetically the virus keeps going on to August.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the National would be canceled?
Well, if it stays, I'll hop in first. If it stays the way it is right now, like if it stays this amount of hysteria, which it won't, but if by some chance it stayed like it is now, yes, absolutely. But do I think in any way, shape, or form that those conversations are going on now? I mean, I'm sure they have to have them, but with, like I said, the information that I know people that they don't work with the players on the sidelines, but they work in NFL offices. NFL offices have been told, at least as of yesterday, to plan everything as normal, which, the NFL season starts well before the National. So the NFL offices are being told, plan everything. That's the draft. I mean, that's April in the draft. So, I mean, they're even as close as there. So do I think that the National would end up being canceled? No, but I mean, now that's considering, that obviously if it gets a lot worse, if it stays this bad, then it'll absolutely be canceled. But I don't know what you guys think.
I agree with you, Drew. Basically, if I think by June, if we're we have not made any progress and we're exactly at the same spot as we are today, which I think is highly unlikely. I think by June we would know if the National's going to be canceled. It's not going to be July. It's not going to be August. I mean, they got to give. I mean, I know by May we're already prepping for the National. Right. We're already. Exactly. We already have our rooms booked. We already have our flights booked.
Dude, I'm already, before that, we've already got, I know I'm staying with John Newman, another co-host of the show. We've got a place booked. I'm already planning, we've got a show on the main stage again. I'm planning that show now. Like all that stuff is a lot of people are planning right now. Though, before I let you go, is there any follow-up or anything that you had?
Well, again, you have some very good points. I probably think that if this continues, yes, the National will be canceled, but as of now, I don't really see it happening.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for calling in the show, bud, and thank you for watching. Guys, another excellent caller. Oh, I actually was just about to call. We had someone else. You had just called in. Click back in. I was literally about to pull you in. That was the whole purpose of switching this over. But I guess, guys, we'll take it from here and keep on going with it. What I can't. Val, you were about to say something. What's going on?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think the National will go on. I think right now here in the South, they're canceling school for 14 days, or they're moving spring break up and kind of do the self-isolation to kind of make sure it doesn't ramp up. I don't know if you've seen the hill and the large peak and the try to make it a longer distance as opposed to a straight ramp up. So I think next couple of weeks after everything settles, I think we'll get back to normal.
Yeah, I do find, real quick off topic, I do find the school part funny. My kids come home sick since school started and nobody cared, but now all of a sudden they want to close school. But that's not what this show's about. But but Dan, we'll move back away from the National a little bit and get back onto what I was talking about. I'm really glad we had someone on our panel, which is what I love about our panels, we have people from different areas of the hobby, and breaking is one area I really wanted to touch on because, we can talk about the short term and everything, like immediate, like the next couple of days aspect, but I'm looking more into, the next week, the next couple of weeks, the next month, if they decide to take that long to get this stuff back into place. What do you kind of see? Because to me, I honestly see this as a time where, yes, some card prices are going to drop and people it may not be the feeding frenzy that it was, which honestly is probably a good thing, that it might need to settle down some, at least secondary market price wise. But I see this also as a time that there's no sports on TV. I mean, last night they were replaying the All-Star game. There's nothing to watch. There's nothing to do. I see this as a time where you're going to see a boom, not only because people don't have sports to watch, but also people love prospecting, and now they can't be proven wrong. And you can put that money into people, and they can't be, Bo Bichette. I got a gold sitting right here on the desk. He can't be proven to be a bust right now. So his hype can continue to grow. So I kind of see this as, I can kind of almost see this to be a point where the hobby aspect of it, people kind of, to get their sports fix that they need. I mean, especially gambling, especially the people that gamble. I could see breaking in those avenues really having quite a big boom from all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to an extent. Like, so I break it down by categories, and when I say categories, I mean sports. So, baseball, you could think about it like you're saying with Bo Bichette. You have 2 extra weeks to prospect some of these players who may make the team at a spring training, or basically going to be called up. Luis Robert stuff. I've been collecting him for a little while, but maybe able to get his stuff, and think about it as a 2 extra week process of maybe able to pick up some rookies and stuff like that as baseball. Hockey.
Well, actually, we have a question, and it's relating exactly to that, and it's without the NCAA tournament this year, do you see this hurting basketball cards going into next year? Like, do you see it having that big of an effect?
I see it having an impact based on some of the rookies that come into the next draft class. They make their name in the March Madness. When the NCAA, I mean, Trae Young was a good player throughout the whole year, but they really made their mark during the finals, or the March Madness, when everybody's eyeballs were on him. That we're not going to have that going into next year. We're going to be basically taking what players had done when the season ended into the draft. So it could affect some of the hype going into next year's draft class. Next year's draft class on paper doesn't look like it's going to be that strong. So you're not going to have the Lukas, you're not going to have the Trae Youngs, you're not going to have the Zions, and you're not going to have the Ja. So it was probably going to be kind of a soft draft class anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And now we kind of have something that we could point to and be like, well, if it's a bad rookie class, we can blame the coronavirus. I think we're going to be basically doing that with anything that doesn't go as we expected.
Well, I thought we'd already figured out it was Panini's fault.
It's Panini, yeah. But Panini makes the and then football right now historically slow. The season's ended. It's before the draft. You're in that weird area of the off season. You basically free agents haven't even started signing yet. So it's historically a slow time for football. Great time to buy. If you're looking to buy last year's rookies, Drew Lock, Kyler Murray, AJ Brown, all those guys, great time to buy. Until National Treasures comes out, we always have this kind of dip.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And Kat, I went on and put the link into the Facebook chat, so you can do it as well. For some reason, Restream is not attaching this morning, so we're having to do that a little bit differently. And Brian, I've left your comment up here for a few minutes because I found that as well. I've been chasing after Nico for a while now, and this is honestly perfect for me because his prices are going to drop even more. We got a caller already in. All right. And looks like Katz himself, or as I guess I should call him today, Lime for my Corona. Thanks so much for calling in, my man. What's going on?
What's up, fellas?
Not much. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing? Everybody staying COVID-19 free?
Oh, absolutely, man. We're here in a bubble. So what you got for us today, my man?
Nothing. I mean, you guys, I don't really see this having any kind of effect on the hobby. If anything, I've noticed that razzes and breaks are filling faster because everybody's at home with nothing to do.
Exactly.
Just my opinion.
That's where I was kind of going with this is that, and thanks so much for calling. We actually got another caller as well coming on, but that's exactly where I was going with this. You know, you have nowhere for people to go to turn to. People are only going to watch the dunk contest so many times. They're only going to watch Zion's debut so many times. I mean, I'll watch my Panthers lose in the Super Bowl a million times, but even that kind of gets old after a while. But we do have another caller, and I do want to bring him in, and he is Mr. Ryan Durkee. What's going on, dude?
How you doing, buddy?
Not bad, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So what's going on?
I was just listening. I
Mhm.
saw it pop on my Facebook. That question that they brought about eBay sellers, I noticed last night on eBay, it's actually the last 48 hours, and I think it's going to continue. With sports not being on TV, a lot of auctions that are going on eBay right now are selling considerably lower than they normally would because the demand for and the hype for the player. Like I picked up a Zion Prism out of, I think it was $199 for like 40% below the last like 6 comps. So I think now if you're a flipper, which I know you know I am, it's more of a buy and hold time until the hype for the overall player comes back. I don't think you're going to see players explode, but I think like even the Acuna bat downs, they've dropped a little bit in the Acuna updates. I know the pop report's insane, but even those have come back down since the whole Gary V explosion.
Yeah, absolutely. And boy, Gary V explosion. Quite interesting timing on that one. You had like this massive, all we talked about, you know, for a week was a massive influx in the hobby. And now we're talking about, you know, what could happen and all of this stuff going on. And, you know, looking at that right here, with what you're saying, Ryan, you being a flipper, like you said, doing a lot of flipping. When you're looking at this market, you're looking at it as a, like you said, a buy and hold now market. Are you somebody that sees, what do you know, it's kind of the question that we've been asking a lot today is how long do you see this going on? Do you think this is going to affect a lot of people's values, or do you think it gets to a point where, I guess, and this is for everybody in the panel as well, do you think it gets to a point where people get so bored with no sports, but they know it's coming back? Like, let's say they announce we're coming back a couple months down the road and they just have to sit there and wait. When those announcements happen, do you see that hype really ramping back up and the hobby going really back to where it was? Or do you think that this is going to cause it to take a step back a little bit?
I think if you're in a responsible financial position to buy, just like I don't want to say a stock, but kind of like a stock. I think if you can pick up, if you spend 10 grand right now on desirable players, like I don't do baseball, so I don't even know the main guys, but if you take a look at Zion, Trae Young, Luka, Giannis, LeBron, if their value, if you can spend 10 grand over the next 6 weeks, we'll say this last, I think your ROI percentage is going to be much higher in the 20 to 30% range as soon as the season gets announced that it's coming back, just based upon the saliva in people's mouths for sports to be back on TV and not having to talk to your family anymore, will increase the value significantly short term, and it won't even be based on how they come back out of the gates and perform.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you right there, man. Well, thanks so much for calling in, bro, and for watching the show. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Did anybody catch? It looks like Gary V had a little live stream going for about an hour and a half. I guess it was maybe Wednesday, Thursday.
Please tell him he told him to dump these Lucas again so they go back up higher. Like
Well, he was covering all kinds of different things, but I mean, it was all about cards. But he was talking about buying
like the
for
hoops.
10,
Are you
20
talking
years.
about the one the other day that he was talking about how people should be jumping at Luca hoops and all that stuff? I did see that one. I do want to touch on one thing real fast, and then Dan, I want to kind of let you, if there's anything you wanted to talk about. 3B Collection commented here, and this is very interesting, that he had 2 eBay bidders asked to cancel because they didn't want to take an outside package. I didn't even really consider that, but I mean that could cause some people to not maybe, want to follow through with stuff. At least on eBay is where I would worry more about that than on Facebook and places like that. But do you guys see that being that much of a concern?
I think that is another word for basically buyer's remorse. I think a lot. I think it's like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have bought this card. And this is like the easiest, like nobody's going to basically say, no, too bad. You're going to get my shipment.
I'm so glad you said that instead of me.
No, I mean, that's what I'm here
so I get
for.
a question though. So what if you have a package coming from Italy? And I have a package coming from Italy. So I'm curious.
Okay.
It's going to, in transit, it's going to touch so many hands. I mean,
I know.
If we're worried about this now, I mean,
yeah.
What about before? Like what
exactly.
were we doing?
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to say it's buyer's remorse, because why didn't they give a shit until the whole other time? It's a joke, but that is very interesting that that's being used as yet another excuse.
I mean that right there is, you could look at it and go, it's the same thing as how many times we've gotten or heard about. My kid jumped on my eBay and bid on all these auctions, and I want to cancel everything.
I tested that once just for fun, because Jude's a very smart kid. He sets his own password for his tablet. Mm-hmm. He does everything. I gave him my phone one day. He said he wanted to look for toys or something, and I was dealing with something in scammers. He said he wanted to look. I gave him my phone. I put it on eBay. I said eBay on, had my account logged in and everything. Set it down to him, said, find something you like and buy it. No clue how to do it. Absolutely not. Like, not even the general idea how to start to get that stuff done. And I mean, he's 5 now. So, I mean, that stuff's a joke, but it is pretty funny. I love hearing those excuses.
Yeah.
But Mike Summer, an awesome other co-host of the show, and actually a guest on Let Me Get That Potograph this week, which will drop later tonight, guys. He's got something that's interesting that I want to kind of ask you guys about, and what you think this is attributed to. That eBay is slowing down, but ComC and Sports Slots, 2 other excellent avenues to grab cards. Really, my 2 favorite avenues to grab cards are apparently, going like crazy, which tells me something. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
I've done a little ComC. Sports Slots I actually have never tried before, so I'm not super familiar with the process. I mean, I know ComC does actually have a way that you can consign through them as well, right? So if I'm not mistaken, you could send your cards, and then I'm assuming you could decide if you want to send that card to an auction. I've actually purchased stuff from them, and it actually gets shipped obviously straight from ComC, which is a great service. I think it's just the fact that ComC is growing. They're a great company. They do great things. The interface is great, really easy to use. And you don't get a lot of the excuses that you get from eBay with the buyer's remorse aspect of it.
Yeah, and Sports Slots really is more an area for getting, I guess, larger lots of cards, smaller end cards, So for me, it shows a lot of the collectors, it shows maybe I see eBay slowing down, maybe that's where a lot of the flipping is going. But when I see Sports Slots and ComC cranking out, I'm seeing those set builders and people like that probably taking advantage of some people slashing some prices. I know I've seen, and kind of going on that aspect of it, but it's interesting that people are seeing that.
I think
anyway,
you hit it right on the head there with the sport lots and the check out my cards. Feeling collections or working on your collection as opposed to the flipper, the large scale sale on eBay. Where you're going to sell your Luke on eBay, you're not going to really sell it on Check My Cards or Sport Lot. So
right, like Mike says right here, Sport Lot sales 90% base and inserts. When I was doing my Topps Chrome Super Collection for the Panthers, I was collecting refractors of every player for every year, all 20 years. I would buy the majority of my stuff from there because they were penny cards and you could save on shipping. It's a great way. What's up, Charles? How's it going, man? Thanks for watching. Feel free to call in and join the show. We'd love to have you on. I guess back to the topic at hand, guys. If you guys want to continue talking about the coronavirus, we can.
I will add one thing.
Yes.
That could affect breakers down the road. Actually, it probably will affect breakers down the road, and it will affect shops down the road. And I can't stress it enough right now. If you are a breaker, if you are a shop, order supplies.
Yes.
Top loaders and sleeves. I know one of the major distributors in the country hasn't had a shipment of Ultra Pro since January.
Yeah.
One of their biggest warehouses is pretty much empty when it comes to supplies. So if that keeps on happening, I could see a shortage in supplies, not product.
Right. Yeah.
Supplies. So, if you're a shop and if you're a breaker, contact your distributor, probably order, a month or two worth of supplies just in case, because it's going to be on the slow boat from China. It's going to take a long time to get over here. And if they haven't got anything right, like since January, you got to figure they're probably not going to get another shipment until May or June.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. I was actually in Score More Sports Cards in Winston-Salem. They were just featured in Beckett Magazine. Check them out. Awesome card shop. But I was actually just in there talking to him about supplies. And I pretty much bought him out. Like he told me the same thing you did. He's like, I don't know when more of these are coming in because, we all ask the same question when they're out. When are more coming in? It's like, I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get these. And he cited the same concerns that you did. So it's a very valid concern. And I think it's something that's going to rear its head, down the line, I guess, depending on how long all of this lasts.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the only thing that I can really right now. I could say that in the next couple of months may be an issue.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at here is I think you're going to see the overall theme here is that you're going to see small little things like supplies, little parts of the industry and things that may be affected, heavily by this. It could end up having a big issue with it, but in the overall aspect of it, the overall hobby, as strong as it was before, I think I've talked about it on the show. I think there's a couple of safeguards built in nowadays to almost prevent it from just completely nosediving. But I don't see that happening here. I see this as a time where if you're smart in this hobby and you're in this, hobby or whatever you want to call it, if you're in it to try and profit and to make money, and, we all want to make good investments on our cards, we all want them to be good. This is a prime time for you to actually, get in there and actually make some money and get some decent, investments, some cards cheap. I know I've picked some up very cheap. It's not a time to just, like I've seen a lot of people say, oh, the hobby's dead. Sports are over. The hobby's dead. To me, that's just the dumbest thing I could hear because I look at it the total opposite way.
What I have seen, and I actually picked up something last night. You're seeing a lot more within the last couple of days. You're seeing a lot more players that you would not see auctions start at 99 cents. I got like a Connor McDavid rookie auto at a Black Diamond.
Nice.
That would be something that would be a buy it now or best offer listing.
Absolutely.
But I felt that because of the situation we're in, somebody was like 99 cents. I'm going to let it run. Wow. I feel I got it for a steal.
What did you get it for?
I got it for a little bit over 500.
Nice.
And I mean, we're talking Connor McDavid. That's like one of those guys that I consider like a blue chip.
Absolutely.
I mean,
he's a one percenter. He's one of those guys where if you're going to invest in someone that's going to go up, it's him. I mean, he's just going to be going up.
In the next couple of weeks, if you do see auctions like that, those are guys you just don't see start at 99 cents. So that may be something to look for. And I don't think you can ever go wrong with buying, the Connor McDavids of the world or the LeBron Jameses and I mean, even the Lucas and stuff like that. You can never go wrong with it. It'll definitely hold its value. Worst case scenario, it's going to gradually go up. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely deals to be had. As far as like sealed wax, I don't know where we're going to go on that. I mean, in a couple of weeks, we could look at it. You could have a lot of shops and a lot of group breakers are on terms. So if they're not selling their product and bills start coming up, then you could start seeing, people liquidating product and getting rid of it on the cheap. But I really don't see that happening with how hot basketball and, baseball around the corner. And, I think we're good.
I've seen some of the NASCAR guys, they're tweeting out that they're buying wax. Some of the older NASCAR wax, older being, I guess, was 2017, some other stuff. So, it's opportunity. The NASCAR wax is a lot less than, basketball and some of the other wax. But some of the folks that I've seen, they're taking this time to, buy some other wax and bust some other stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I completely agree with both of you. I think it's and that's the time. Just like right here, the comment right here. There are a lot of opportunities right now, and it's whether it be in any different market. I don't think this is as doom and gloom as people think. The worst part about all this to me is just I have to watch repeats of sports instead of live sports. I mean, that's what hurts the most to me.
Yeah, I turned on was it Sports Center today, and they were doing the top 10 upsets.
1995? Yeah, 1995 Sports Centers. I mean, I'll watch those. Those are great.
And then NASCAR, they're running last week's race.
Right. Well, here's a good question right from the show. And guys, please call in with any question you have. It does not have to be about the coronavirus, please. I would absolutely love if you wanted to call in and talk about something else like this question right here. And if you don't want to call in, just put the question in the comments. I really don't care. I would love to not discuss that all day. But this is a good question from Jody right here. Do the grading companies create their own cases, or could they potentially run out? I'm guessing you're referring to with the shutdowns of supplies and everything, like you were saying. Dan, you may be a little more familiar with this than I am. I'm very familiar with the actual grading process, but not exactly the tools and where it's purchased. I have looked into it, and I know a lot's done overseas. But,
I would have to say, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I would say that the slabs themselves are outsourced. And if you actually look at them, it looks like they're two halves that are kind of pressed together. So I'm assuming when they come in two parts, probably on huge pallets. Yep. So I think those, very similar to BCW or Ultra Pro, are probably made in China and then shipped to.
There is a patent number on them. I just looked, so I'm sure if you wanted to look up the patent number, you could find out where they're from.
So I mean, that is actually that could be a concern. I mean, these grading companies are so far behind.
I know.
I don't know if that's going to be what's going to hold them back.
Now, this is actually something I'm just going to go off on something you just reminded me. I really wanted to discuss this. When it comes to grading, we had just gotten all this news where everyone was so far backed up and people were so concerned about how's it going, Rich? A hobby legend in the house, Mr. Rich Klein. Thank you so much for watching, good sir. And please feel free to call in anytime you would like and join the show. We would love to have you on. But when it comes to grading, they just said, there was 1 million backlogged at PSA. Beckett stopping about turnaround times. If anything, these people that have thousands and thousands of cards at PSA, I have a ton of them myself. This gives you a little bit of a reprieve. Those cards don't need to be back as fast anymore. If anything, this might cause people to almost not forget about their graded cards, but focus on other things and not worry about needing them back this second before Bo Bichette hits 2 home runs, and give them time to focus on some other stuff, and maybe give the grading companies as well time to catch up a little bit as people possibly don't send as much.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good point. I mean, Drew, what do you think grading companies can do to try to alleviate the backlog that they have? Hire more graders is like obviously the easy go-to, but I've always thought like there has to be something that we could figure out to alleviate some of that pressure.
There is, and it's very, very, very simple. And PSA really annoying. I love PSA. Rich, I'm actually putting the link in right now in the chat. I just put it in under, let me get that potograph. So you're more than welcome to call in whenever you'd like. But I'm sorry, your question about, sorry, what was that? I lost train of thought.
What could these grading companies do to try to speed up the process?
Okay, PSA annoyed the hell out of me, and I love these guys, but they annoyed the hell out of me when they did their recent report, and they talked about that they're putting those chips in slabs so you can authenticate the slab, make sure it's a PSA slab. That's awesome. Good job on inventing some technology. You want to make this grading faster and you want to make it better? I don't need the entire grading process overhauled so a computer does the whole thing. Not what I'm saying at all. But take that money that you're putting into that technology, take some of these profits and put it into automating a portion of the system, any part of the system, and get it to where you've got that updating track. I mean, there's ways that if they would even just overhaul the way they inventoried cards with photos, it would make it easier on them, but they don't do it and they won't do it. Instead, they want to put microchips in slabs. It's just, there are ways to do it without, I don't want to hire more graders. That's going to cause a major problem because it takes a long time to train these people. And I want these graders trained more. I don't want people thrown out. I don't even want people that have been working in the building around graders. I don't even want them quickly trained. I want the graders trained more. I'd rather focus on automating some of that process, even if it's just the surface, whatever it may be. Automating a partial piece of that process, I think, changes everything tremendously.
And that's something that we've definitely talked about for a long time is we have all this technology and we have facial recognition software. There's no reason why you can't have somebody program and scan the card and just to find out if it's correctly centered or just to find out if it's been trimmed or not, instead of having somebody physically look at it with a ruler and just make it. I mean, it's so time consuming. There has to be a better way to streamline the process to speed it up, and it would benefit the grading companies. Obviously, they'd be able to get more cards graded and out into the consumer's hands. But
I hope they're working on that.
I saw Mike in the chat about the spicy potato chip prevent the virus. I didn't do the spicy chip challenge. I don't really do hot food. I can't hang with that. But you can ask Doug. He seems pretty healthy. If he did get the coronavirus, I think the spicy chip may have just burned it completely out of his system. So
Dan, I don't know. You were talking about the plastic, if everybody knows this or not, but yeah, there's 2 pieces of plastic and they use an ultrasonic plastic welder to put those 2 together. And if you go to the National, you'll hear it coming from Beckett and coming from the PSA every couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, you'll hear that sound.
Yeah. I figured, because if you look at it, you can definitely see the seam. And I figure when they get those slabs, they probably get them in 2 separate pallets. You have the top and you have the bottom, and then they just probably have a system of just,
Yeah. Hey, Mike Summer, real fast. If you are watching the show, Mike, if you could get the link over to Rich. It's very difficult to get this link into the YouTube chat today with Restream, but we do have a caller on the line now. So we're going to pull him in right now. And then Josh, welcome to the show, Josh.
Okay.
Hey, Josh.
Can you guys hear me now?
Hey,
hear you now.
Hey, what's up, man?
So apparently the prepaid AT&T data stream is not fast enough to
Hey. You got such an awesome jersey on the wall. I'll let it pass. So,
Yeah.
so let's go. So what's going on, man? What can we do for you, bud?
So, real quick, I guess my thought was I watched a little bit of the Gary V conversation, and I myself, I tend to collect some basketball cards. I like things from the 80s and 90s, and the way I do feel with everything that's going on is I don't think the prices will be affected too much on that stuff. The prices seem to be, for the most part, pretty set. I do see the prices on the current stuff maybe slowing down until things get back going, and I think they'll pick right back up. But on that said point, I do kind of wonder with some of the investors that Gary V says he's bringing in, if they're athletes or people that are actually investing versus collectors, people who want to spend a lot of money in the industry versus, say, a collector who, to me, growing up as a kid, I mean, $200 and $300 was a lot of money to spend on a card, not alone $2,000 for a base card of Giannis or $2,000 for a base card of LeBron or anybody else. So I do wonder, I don't feel like those cards are that rare. And I wonder if, as a collector, we tend to value things differently. The industry can go down in 10, 20 years and we're kind of cool with it. The card means something to us emotionally as well as monetarily, where these people, if you could give not really care about the sports or what it meant to you as a kid, if you're a $2,000 Giannis card tanks, I mean, I could just, obviously you're walking away. So I do wonder if his investor that he's bringing in is different than a true, I would say a sports card collector investor who actually cares about, rookie cards or cares about building a collection. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Josh, thanks for the question. Thanks for calling in. Dan, what do you think? Do you think that this is a totally different type of collector here?
I mean,
or what do you think?
Yeah, I think that the influx of a quote unquote investors that like Gary V has maybe brought into the hobby, you could see some of those people jump out of the hobby and go back into flipping shoes or flipping whatever it is the next hot thing. That is not what
toilet paper soon.
And Perel, I mean, that's another thing. We can get on topic. Get on topic about toilet paper just blows my mind. But I think basically they're not in it for the long haul anyway.
No.
We look, and it may affect the secondary market on certain players, whatever hype is going on with this player or that player. That is not what our industry is built around. Yeah. Anyway, it's built around collectors who I was talking to Doug about this a while ago. There's collectors who collect a team, a player, and they don't care what the value is. It goes into their personal collection, and you couldn't put a monetary value on that card that would allow them to flip. Yeah. And I have a bunch of stuff. I collect pretty much all Stanford players. A lot of them, it's only value to me.
That's my East Carolina collection. I ain't going out and said there's not going to be 50 watchers on my Bryce Williams super collection.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the guy going out there buying like Kobe Fleener.
Yeah. But real quick, I don't like to interrupt any of our normal co-hosts much, but we do have to pause for just a moment because we got to let a absolute hobby legend and a great friend of mine into the show to join us. For really glad he's able to call in before the show ended today, and that of course is Uncle Rick Klein. Rich, how's it going, man?
Pal. Hey Dan, I'm glad. This is a confluence of events that actually lets me watch the show at least the last half live, and then I'll be probably being able to watch you all live for the next few weeks until this whole thing calms down a bit.
Yep. Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks so much for tuning into the show. So, Rich, obviously you have written probably more about the hobby than anybody. You've seen a lot go on in this hobby. I mean, when you look at everything that's going on, I don't think there's a better person to really ask as far as a hobby aspect goes. What do you think of all of this, and what do you think the ultimate maybe what's going to happen with all this? Is it just being blown out of proportion? What is this?
I think the issue is we don't know what we don't know. And this is uncharted territory. We know that if a season gets suspended and doesn't resume, it's a major hit.
Right.
If this is a 2-week break for baseball, basketball, hockey, it won't even be a blip eventually. It'll pick right back up. Yeah. If we lose the NHL season and they say no Stanley Cup, if we lose NBA, they say no Stanley Cup. If we can't figure out, baseball, football is still continuing their off-season activities. So football just got a good break in that they've got nothing going on right now that really affects on-field performance. We know the baseball strike in '94 really decimated the hobby. Mm-hmm. It really put a major hurt in it. I have a GTS column I'm going to write, and, as the lead-in, it's going to be, I remember where I was August 12th, 1994, heading on a plane for a show trip to upstate New York and then staying for the East Coast National and visiting my dad in between and not being sure. But I go to, I found at the first show I went to, the market maker at the show, it was about a 50, 60 table mall show. And the guy basically said, don't even ask about baseball. The minute the strike hit, it's gone. Right. And I mean, this was, Jeff Bagwell had broken his wrist 2 days earlier or 3 days earlier. So he was irrelevant at that point. He would win the MVP, but his season was done. But Frank Thomas, nobody wanted to talk about. Griffey, nobody wanted to talk about. Vintage got really hot at that point. Mm-hmm. Right now, we don't know. I just was on a Facebook conversation with an old dealer friend of mine who was excused from work. He's still getting paid. He just went out and bought 20 or 30 or 50 or whatever, how much Donruss blaster boxes to break them for fun. Right. Because if he's assuming it's a 2-week break and he's still getting paid, why not do things to keep you in the hobby? So we don't know. And I don't want this to sound wrong. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know how long this will last.
No, absolutely. And Mike, Dan, if you had any question or any follow-up, please jump right in. But Mike actually asked, Rich, how does this scare compare to maybe the impact of the Spanish flu on the tobacco card market in 1918? That's by that point, there probably wasn't if you look at the history of when sports cards were done in America, by 1918, there are almost no cards anyway. The big peak of tobacco cards, the T205s, 206s, 207s, are all like 1909 to 1912. And then you have a few, other issues that pop up along the way. You have Cracker Jack in 14 and 15. They don't even do 16 and 17. Right. And so the card market had really, whatever the card market was, and there really wasn't a formal card market, but even to the kids, the card market had pretty much faded by the time the Spanish flu hit. And then the 20s, there was no real, if you look at the 20s, it's like a non-existent card period. You have a few sets, but you don't have anything really until 33. And then 33, 34, the new card market starts taking off in a different way. But you have Gaudi, you have Diamond Stars, you have all these products coming out during the Depression. We don't know. I did feel better yesterday after the presentation at the White House, and I'm trying to avoid politics. But I think that now that we as a country are going to really understand, and plus the bill that was passed by the House last night with such an overwhelming margin, the Senate will do it. I think we as a country will start understanding this is important, but we can deal with it as long as we are all on somewhat close to the same page. We can disagree politically. We can say you liberals suck, you conservatives suck, and that's okay. But we all have to understand that when it comes to illness, illness and cancer knows no politics. They know no religion. It just affects you.
Rich, I was thinking about that the other day about like with 9/11, everybody kind of came together. Everybody had the American flags on their car. That if everybody takes this seriously and as an opportunity to kind of work together and do their part to try to weather this.
I drove home from Texas on 9/11. I was actually in New York for a friend of mine's wedding on September 9th, and I was supposed to leave at 7 p.m. because I was going to go to a card show. The Tuesday night Parsippany Card Show on the 9th for a couple hours, and then, in those days you didn't have to wait for 2 hours on a line. So I actually got to drive home between 9:11 and 9:13. It was a fascinating drive.
I'm sure it was. Now, Rich, I wanted to, before I let you go, because we are approaching the end of our show, I have a follow-up that a couple of our users had asked. And you mentioned the strike of baseball and about how it decimated the hobby. Now, with this being, not necessarily, the fans aren't placing blame on the players in this aspect. Do you see any difference maybe in maybe the overall severity of the impact, being that this is something that wasn't on the players? This isn't a strike. This isn't a lockout. This is something that was really unavoidable.
Well, I think with the exception of Rudy Gobert, yeah. I think with his exception, nobody's going to blame the players, and that helps. I wouldn't want to be having the only Rudy Gobert collection right now, only because he just acted like an idiot. And I understand you're a young guy, you think you're invincible, and you're the one that gets it. I think that helps. I also think in basketball case, and hockey, the fact that we almost finished the season. And what was his name? Leon Draisaitl had 116 points or something like that already this year. And Luka here in Dallas, and Zion was playing well, and LeBron was having an awesome year. Yeah, we got enough of the regular season done in those sports that they're fine. Baseball is really your fulcrum point, though, because we didn't get a start of a season.
Right.
So it'll help some people like Aaron Judge, who got injured, like Giancarlo Stanton, who got injured. It'll help them at least see if they can heal some more. But, for the guys we always look forward to, your Trouts, your Bellingers, right now your Yelich's, they're not going to be able to add anything to their stats for a while.
Right.
And so an established superstar, and that's why I'm saying we don't know. If on April 1st, baseball says we can resume the season, we're comfortable, we can resume the season, then this is a blip. We'll begin the season 3 weeks later, and nothing will happen. I'm more worried because the CBA is supposed to come up at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And what we don't need are 2 seasons without baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rich, I do thank you so much for calling in and joining the show and watching. And please feel free to call in anytime.
If what's going on is going on, we might be able to do this for the next few weeks, and then we'll go back to school.
Wonderful. Well, please, like I said, anytime, we'd love to have you on. It's great to see you, bud.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Once again, that's why I love this show, guys. That's awesome. If you guys don't know, Rich Klein, if you've read baseball articles from pretty much the 80s until now, then you've read Rich Klein. You just don't know it. The man is a hobby legend. Love having someone like that stop in and join the show.
So I'd love to know how long he's been collecting. I know I've been collecting a long time, but I know he's got me beat.
I just love how as soon as you ask about the Spanish flu and 1918 cards, he's got the answer. Like, it's not like, well, let me think about it. I don't know too much. I'm not too sure. Oh, no. Here's what happened. I mean,
there was a lull there with a crackjack and all that stuff. That was amazing.
Anyway, but guys, thanks so much. We are approaching the end of the hour. So I guess we're going to wrap up another edition of Hobby Hotline. Dan, thanks so much for joining me. Val, thanks so much for joining us. And as always, you guys out there, thank you so much for watching the show. We'll be back next week. We've actually got a very special guest joining the show next week, as Dr. Beckett himself will be joining the show. So very cool conversation that you will want to be a part of. And we'll be taking your questions as always. But till next week, guys, we will see you later.
See you later.
See you.
Perfect.